Hello and welcome to this month's Fire Chief's video message for November 2018. Joining me this month is Battalion Chief Steve Mann. Welcome. Thank you for filling in the seat that Pete normally occupies. So you've been a backup PIO for a little bit of time, and that's how I tasked you to fill Pete's role here today. One of my objectives for this month, it's been about 2 months since I had a video, was to do updates on a lot of different things that are ongoing within the department, because a lot of things have happened. So what would you like to talk about as updates?
Yeah, well, like you said, there's been quite a few things in the last month or two that have come up. One of the first things would be that we know that there's a new Pierce pumper that was inspected about a month ago. Perhaps an update on where that stands now.
Yeah, so the apparatus committee was out there at the end of October and inspected that, as we would say, on the blue floor at Pierce. That should be traveling to us within about a week. The final inspections, the final tweaks based upon the group's assessment have been resolved. The unit should be here, like I say, in about a week. It's intended to go in service before the end of the year. At one point in the past, people may have heard me say that we were going to test it at a rural station and a busy station for a little bit of time each. There was a rumor out there that it was going to be tested at every station for a period of time. It's going to Station 12, as we know, because that's how it's marked. That's the station it's going to be assigned at. And once we get upfitted and the training occurs, because there is a little bit of a new technology on it that's not similar with the current rigs, it's going just to Station 12 and be in service there. So it's not going to be, given to Station X and run for a week and then given back to Station 12. So hope to have it in service within about a month, so right before the end of the year. And then the production schedule still is on track for the other 23, starting in the March early spring time frame, with roughly 4 to 5 a month being completed for the rest of the order of 24. So look to see that here on top of the hill at South Lawn within about a week.
All right, very good. What about the brush engines and the rescue squads?
So the brush engines have been a challenge, very much honestly saying that. It was a secondary pump issue that delayed the brush engines. We had a performance requirement that the brush engines be able to do pump and roll, and there was a need to re-engineer that. And because of that change in adjustment, there was a delay and setback. So the first week of December is when the committee's heading out to the Midwest to inspect those for the final inspection on the 4 of those rigs. And they'll be here hopefully by the beginning of the year, and then there are going to be graphics applied locally. And again, that's 4 brush engines, so replacing 13, 14, and 17's current rigs and adding a brush engine at Station 22. So that'll increase that capacity by a little bit. On the rescue squads, the group was up in New Jersey at PL Custom or Rescue 1 a couple weeks ago. There was a combination. Early part of the week they were up there for EMS units, and some of the committee members switched naturally to the rescue squad committee for the second part of the week. And they did engineering. So the engineering's half done, I would use that phrase. They expect to be finished in about a month on that engineering. And then the production schedule is about a full year. That'll be 3 rescue squads, so all of the Pierces at 3, 17, and 29, all 3 will be replaced with these new Spartan Rescue 1s, and that'll hopefully be in place by the end of 2019. So those units are getting ready to see final production or final engineering drawings shortly.
Okay. And how many of those do you anticipate going into the reserve fleet?
Hoping to have 2 sustained rescue squads out of the 3 in the reserve fleet. So that would take us from what we practically talk about today as 3 reserve squads, 41B, 42B, and Reserve Squad 1, to having 4 reserve squads, 41B, 42B, and then at least 2 of the Pierces as reserve squads. So Squad 15, they did an engineering meeting on that, is upcoming. They're buying an E1 rescue squad to replace their squad. That unit also is a little bit beyond a year, but probably the beginning of 2020 we'll be seeing a new squad 15 on that phrase. So a lot of movements on the heavy squad capacity.
Okay. Moving on to EMS units. Any word on EMS units or the COT study that was done?
So there's 16 EMS units on order in that engineering conference. So the last batch of EMS units that we purchased, I'm going to use the phrase, were just before the standard changed on COT retention or COT anchoring. What we would identify as the antler system, where on the floor of the unit you have those, that U-shaped bracket, the antlers that secured the front of the cot. Those are no longer permitted and are not adequate for the retention of the cot in crashes. So they had to have a more robust, a more centerline and positive locking securing component. So ultimately, as we went forward with the next batch of cots, we were going to change. Let me rephrase that. Ultimately, as we went forward with the next batch of EMS units, we were going to change cot systems. So 16 units on order through PL Custom, and PL Custom and Rescue One are sister companies. So PL Custom is pretty much the same spec, but there was, as you mentioned, about a month ago, just a little bit before that, a cot assessment. They had Furno come in with their product line. They had Stryker come in with their product line. And both the Apparatus Specifications Ambulance Committee as well as the EMS Equipment Committee had the opportunity to go up, touch, assess, look at, and the decision was made and has been communicated here just recently. We're going with the Stryker Power Pro XT and the Power Load accessory to that. So these 16 cots will be coming in with this Stryker Power Pro XT cot, battery operated, battery lifted, and with the Power Load accessory, the function of actually lifting the unit up and then loading it in. So those will be coming in with those units in the 2019 timeframe, where we're getting a couple spare of the Power Pro cots. We additionally, about a month ago, submitted for an Assistance to Firefighters grant request to do a complete transfer or complete changeover to all electronic or powered cots. So we have a couple Furnos out there in the fleet now. We have a couple of Strykers already out there in different places. When you talk about practically 80 EMS units, 50 or so front line and about 25 or 30 in the reserve, having that capability to have all cots be the same, which is our goal and our ideal, it's a little bit more than a few dollars.
Sure.
And got some hopes that we could get some success with that grant and then speed up the transition. But those 16 will come in with the Power Pro XT, and we'll be starting to move forward with that. So good change there, because safety and fleet did some analysis. How many cot lifting injuries do we have? We do have injuries moving patients, that's a fact. A lot of our injuries moving patients have more nexus to the side-by-side shifting, moving a patient from a floor to a cot, or moving a patient from a bed to a cot. It's when you drill into, was it while lifting the cot that the injury occurred, it was less than you actually would have thought. So every injury's got a cost, there's no doubt, and these are one of the reasons and one of the things that'll help us reduce the number of injuries, and that's a good thing from that perspective, absolutely. So looking forward to seeing that adjustment, but it's going to make a change. There's going to have to be a change in how we practically operate with the cot. No longer with the older Furnos, shall we say, would two people be able to carry it up the 4 steps into a garden apartment building to get into the first floor, units, and then, bring out the patient on the cot and carry it down the 4 steps.
Right.
These cots are 30, 40, 50 pounds heavier just themselves, and that's going to require us to have a little bit of a shift in, more stair chairs, more scoops or reeves,
right,
or more people to do movements. And that's a reality, and that's an appropriate change. But it's just something that has to change with our activities.
Yeah, well, it sounds like a change for the better. What about bariatric capabilities with those units?
That one, I don't have the numerics in my fingertips, but that's a part of it. And naturally, as we have all of the last, quote, 30 units with the bracketry and the winch capabilities, we should be able to sustain that going forward. But that's a point that, as I said yesterday to Fleet, we have to start now with the training academy,
right,
developing the training, because those 16 units will be everywhere across the county, and we'll have to be attuned to how to operate those powered cots.
Okay. So some of the stations, I'm understanding, particularly those with boats, have started using ethanol-free gasoline. I hear that the intent is to move all of our small engines to ethanol-free. Can you speak a little to that?
Yeah, so one of the things, and it deals, anybody who's got a weed whacker or small engine, you leave that gas in there, in the carburetor, that additive that is been in the fuel in the last 4, 5, 6 years is going to gum up the carburetor, needle valve, and all that, and just equate to poor performance or lack of starting. It's just the reality of small engines. As you deal with your lawnmower and all those types of tools, the small engine mechanic's going to say always run your fuel out of your carburetor, turn off the fuel valve, and let it run out so that you have less gunk. So as you said, we switched a while back, about a year ago or so, to all of the boats operating with ethanol-free fuel, and Fleet's now in the beginning steps to do that on all small engines. So chainsaws, PPB fans and generators, everything on special services will be having that. So there'll be some information coming out from Chief Friedman and folks about that, and how we go about providing a fuel storage. I don't want to say we're going to have an army of 5-gallon cans, at each station, but we're going to have a means to have, ethanol-free fuel storage at the stations, and be able to improve our small engine performance by using that specific fuel on those units.
Okay. Changing a little bit to the budget savings plan. That was the big topic back in October, I believe it was. County Council discussed that. That's been resolved. One of the things that came up from that was the net annual work hour analysis. Can you speak a little bit to that?
Yeah. So, as you said, we had 2 different work sessions with Council in the October timeframe. One with the Public Safety Committee, and then followed a week later with full Council, where we talked about the budget adjustment as proposed by the executive, and the Council's action was to continue services as they were. Throughout those discussions, one of the things that was included in the Council packet was the county stat net annual work hour analysis. Long bunch of phrases. So we refer to it as a staffing factor, or the numbers that drive the equation as to how many people does it take to fill a seat 24/7, using the staffing model that is predominant in the fire service. So the net annual work hour analysis is a part of that county council packet. It's great work done by our county stat folks. It was actually a refresh of what was done by the Council Office of Legislative Oversight roughly 11 years ago in 2007. So it reaffirms the numbers from 2007 that say it takes 5 bodies to fill a position 24/7. And I wanted to take a second to explain that as somebody who's been dealing with this when the staffing factor was 4 or 4.5. When I was first Chief Gercio's XO, when we were at still the 4.0 number, and then it changed to 4.5, and then a couple years back it changed to just below 5, and we're using the 5.0 now. About how that works out. So what the county stat report did is it broke it out by rank, and it added the ECC functions, it added the FEI functions, but it looked at each rank that's in field staffing and looked at all the factors of what takes away from someone's availability to be assigned to a station. What leave statuses and work conditions take somebody away from being available to be on the floor as we would have identified. So this chart here is an excerpt from the report. It's just looking at the firefighter 3 level, and we looking at all of the about 480 folks that are in the firefighter 3 rank. So firefighter 3 is looked at differently in the report than firefighter 3 paramedic. They broke those out differently. So as it says here, you know, administrative leave, annual leave, comp leave, disability, sick leave, personal day, days, details, other and light duty, and other involves military or LWOP as an example. So these are the average number of hours that the 480 firefighter 3s over a 3-year period had in Oracle or MC Times record for their paycheck, for their work hour statuses. So, you know, just over 2 shifts of personal day, pretty logical. Everybody's given two personal days for shift workers, so that's pretty clear why 48.1 hours. But those are the numbers. Now, details off the floor, that comes out of telestaff. That's not an Oracle-based information. That's not in MC time. Mm-hmm. But when you're detailed to a training class, detailed to an assessment center, paramedic research, anything that causes a detail off the floor, mm-hmm. again, you're not available to work or not available to be one of the minimum staffing positions for that period of time. So that 97 hours or that data source comes out of telestaff itself. But what it shows is the average firefighter 3 was unavailable to work 646 hours in a year. Mm-hmm. Okay, so 2496 is the annual work hours for a shift work member. So when you look at the 2496 minus that 646 hours, it comes up to the fact that firefighter 3, the average firefighter 3, was able to work or available to be a minimum staffing person about 1,850 hours. When you look at 24/7, 365, we identify that as 8,760. Mm-hmm. There's 8,760 hours in a year. So pretty simple math. 8,760 and 1,850 gets you 4.73. Mm-hmm. So that's the shift relief factor. Saying if you wanted to fill that spot with a person without overtime for the entire 365 days, you would need 4.73 people. We round that to 5, but you would need 5.0 folks to fill that. So that's in that report. It lists it, breaks it out by rank, paramedic, non-paramedic, and it's all within that 4.7, right around that number. ECC positions, it's a little higher. It's in the 5.6s, mid 5s, because of they're on a 42-hour schedule, not the 48-hour schedule. So naturally, filling 8,760 is a little bit more people required. So that report summarizes a delta, and that's what goes into that shift relief factor.
Okay. So that same report also identifies the fact that MCFRS is about 180 positions short.
Right.
What exactly does that mean?
So like I said, that report by rank talks that in some positions at the fire rescue lieutenant, we have an overage of so many positions, but at the fire rescue captain we have a deficiency of so many positions. At master we have a deficiency of almost 100 master firefighter positions. So collectively throughout the field staffing ranks, it adds up to 179 and some change. So about 180 positions deficient. Mm-hmm. And again, that's the mathematical number of, for us to staff the 308 positions on a daily basis without overtime, we would need 179 more people to do it. So there's a balance. Absolutely, there's a balance between full-time positions and overtime. We've been around for more than a minute. We used to understand or recall when we had upstaffs, an upstaff in February or an upstaff in November or non-peak leave seasons was a day when more people showed up to work than we needed for that minimum staffing number.
Right.
That's the opposite of the day when we're on overtime or when we're in a hiring mode. So we haven't had upstaff in quite a long while, many years now, and every day we're into that overtime mode. So that's where an example of that balance. Absolutely, it'd be my objective or my desire to get more full-time positions to reduce the strain on and the reliance upon overtime. I think that balance is about 50%. Statistically, that is from more than a few years of experience in working on this. And the practical sense is, though, it's not a budget savings, it's a budget shift. Okay? Very technically, it is cheaper to fill a position on overtime than to fill it with a full-time firefighter. Mathematically, dollars and cents, hourly rate, overtime versus salary and benefits cost, statistically and mathematically, it is cheaper to fill it on overtime. But there's a balance in how much overtime we can ask our folks to work. There's a balance in how much overtime the community finds to be acceptable as well. So that's where that balance comes into play. And to do the adjustment, it would be taking some money or some intent from overtime in this pot, shall we say, with the right hand, and shifting it to salaries and full-time positions in the left hand. Mm-hmm. It's not an ultimate budget savings. It's a shift from the overtime allocation to the PC or salary as we identified. So that's work that I would like to work with the county executive-elect as well as the new council members and work towards that using the goal, as I said, about 50%. And again, that's a huge number of people. That's 90 folks. That it's going to take us in a conservative estimate 4 to 5 years to make that adjustment, because to do what we want to do it in realistic increments and measure each of the increments impact, because just saying it's 50% without being able to measure what the change of 25% was would be short-sighted. So it's going to be a future goal to make that adjustment, and again, that's a balance between what the community wishes as well as what the capacity of the operating budget.
So it's probably a little premature with the new administration not in place yet, but we've had quite a bit of experience with Mr. Elrich on the Public Safety Committee. Mm-hmm. Does he share that goal with you think, as trying to shift that?
Right. He shares the knowledge that it's a balance, and he shares the knowledge that and this was repeated throughout those council sessions in October, that it is a trade-off between full-time and overtime. And practically, we've gotten past that balance, in my opinion, because our need and our darn close reliance upon force holds is very much an indication of too far away from that balance. So hopefully we will get some traction towards eating away at that deficit. How we do that, what we do it, and every time we eat away at that deficit, that also will offset or be a delay in any other service expansions. So looking at it from ALS chase cars as a service expansion, and eating away at that FTE gap, those two are both competing for the same dollar of salary. So we'll see how that works out.
Okay, very good. So as part of your monthly videos, you aimed to recognize some members of MCFRS, probably one of the more pleasurable parts of your position, I'm sure. What do you have for us this month?
So that is absolutely a part of what we do. We get a lot of letters, and I totally understand that the letters I get in the office are very small percentage of the visits that people get at the station level by the family members or the actual patients saying thank you and appreciation, or the school and youth groups that come by or drop by something. I mean, I think there's a dentist office going around dropping huge boxes of candy off after the candy buyback program, because there was another one this morning at a station I was at. But the opportunity to say thank you for what we're doing, and yours today was a perfect example of that. The folks from Mobile Integrated Health or McNick were honored at part of the Montgomery County Recognition of Excellence ceremony through the National Association of Counties Awards. So the Mobile Integrated Healthcare Program received an Achievement Award, and as that's a collaboration between HHS and Fire Rescue and the field providers. It's very much a demonstrated effort of collaboration to keep the community healthier, using those resources throughout the county infrastructure to support our residents and let them utilize other systems prior to the 911 system for requests for help and assistance. So that was a great opportunity. It actually pretty much coincides with the advertisement of the full-time positions there. The intent of that program was some full-time civilian staff in conjunction with the social worker and the HHS staff and the interns. So those positions are on the street. If folks are interested, go to OHR's website, look at those two position descriptions, and another step towards making Mobile Integrated Health a key part. Related to the EMS theme, was just about a week before that, we had our EMS Provider of the Month award. There was a lot of activity, and Captain Laura Murdoch, Ari Singer, do a great job of taking those submitted recommendations, Provider of the Month nominations that come in, and highlighting that. We had a family member present at the award, which is always a great opportunity to have family for both our providers who are able to come in and enjoy and see their members being recognized, but a resident, a loved one, or family members, or the actual victim or patient come to those ceremonies and be able to say thank you, as well as meet their responders. So that event included some folks from ECC. There was a great example of a call where all it was effectively a 911 disconnect. That's what the information that the call taker had. They had a 911 call that was basically an open line, but they didn't have any or much other specific information. Through some backtracking, they figured out where that phone was registered to, and looked at that number. That number had related to some other diabetic situations. They went to the address that number had been referred to before, and then they realized through the ping that number was not at, quote, the home residence, but it was down in the Wheaton area. And through some great work at ECC by the folks there, as well as the folks from Rescue Company 2, they were able to find this patient in a car in the parking lot, Wheaton Plaza area. Basically an unconscious diabetic, and through some diligent work and trying to track down and locate that cell phone, they were able to make an intervention on a patient that had that 911 disconnect not occurred, or that open line not occurred. Very possibly could have been a bad turnout for them. So EMS Provider of the Month ceremonies are always great. We had a little impact because that was the day of Bryant's Nursery Road fire, so some of our providers who were coming on duty weren't able to attend, but each of them did and will receive their recognition, so it's always great to talk about what our folks do, and I appreciate everybody's support and focus on that resident and on that patient, and it's part of those 120 some thousand calls we go to every day.
Yep, it's a lot of good work being done every day by our folks.
So, any other questions?
No, I don't have any other questions. I appreciate being out here.
So one of the things, and I'm looking through my notes, I skipped over the 2 tankers. Hopefully within a week, tanker 31 will be in service, and then in a couple weeks after that, tanker 13. They've been around for a little bit. We had some equipment issues. We had some certificate of origin issues and getting the ownership title or ownership papers, as some would refer to them as. But those have been resolved, and the last Sigtronics piece came in apparently yesterday. So they should be, again, new tanker at 31 and then a new tanker at 13 a couple weeks thereafter. So another apparatus update.
Very good.
So the holidays are upon us. We're getting ready to roll into the Thanksgiving time frame. And then ultimately the period of December and the holidays throughout the month of Christmas. Wanted to ensure we always refresh and remind the folks that we interact with about the holiday fires, the holiday cooking situations. Butterball turkeys and the turkey fryers, as well as the regular oven fires, is going to be an occurrence in about a week. Additionally, the cold snap has been here, and we are looking for some precipitation tomorrow. So those alternative heat sources, fireplaces, wood stoves, ashes, and how people clean out those stoves. So as we touch base with folks, always highlight, if you go to a call while you're checking the smoke detector, you just notice they have a wood burning fireplace, ask them how they take care of their fireplace ashes. Give them an extra second of information about how to deal and properly manage their ashes, so they don't put them in a paper bag and stick them in the carport, or a plastic bag and stick them in the trash can. So take that extra second, check that smoke detector, hit them up on some safety information related to winter heating, winter safety concerns, but always, and as we were pushing the information, close the door before you doze is very critical. So take care, thank you very much, and be safe.